Hello and welcome to this week's live weekly warm-up. We have another awesome warm-up brought to you by the Next Generation Clarinet Method book, which is my new method book that I just finished revising and creating version 2. I'm really excited about. I'm still in like the very beginning phases of version 2. It's all out there, but I'm sort of continually making adjustments and making changes, which is great because when you buy the Next Generation Clarinet Method, no matter when you bought it, if you already own it, or when you buy it in the future, you'll always get lifetime updates for free. So any little tweaks and any little improvements or major improvements that I make or things that I change or add, you'll always get those completely for free whenever you get it. So it's the perfect time to get it, to see all of the new things that I've added and also stay up to date on all of the fun things I'm adding. If you're interested in the exercise that I'm going to be going over today or all of the other great exercises in the book, go to www.quickstartclarinet.com/nextgenbook. Next Gen book is all one word. You can see the link in the description on this if you're on YouTube or Facebook. And go check out that page because I actually recently created a new version of that page. So if you've been there before and checked it out, there's a completely new version of that page now that I'm really excited about as well. It has a lot more information about the new things that are in version 2, like the timelines, more additional resources that I've added, and there's some testimonials and stuff of what people who've actually been through the book have thought about it as well. So I'm really excited for you to check that out, and I'm really excited to be going over one of the exercises in that this week in this warm-up. So last week, we did a chromatic finger flexibility exercise. If you remember, this is the page from the book, and we did the second exercise, the chromatic scale in chunks. And last week I sort of alluded to what I want to talk more about this week, and that's doing this actually with articulation. So last week we did this all nice and slurred, really focusing on the finger motion and getting really comfortable with all of those chromatic scale notes. And the purpose of that is 100% a technique exercise. It's all about getting your finger motion really good, getting the notes learned really well, and just improving that finger dexterity and that finger technique. Now we're going to take the exact same notes, which by now you should be super familiar with because you've spent a whole week going really slowly through this and like getting your finger motion perfect on it. And now we're going to adapt that and turn it into an articulation exercise. So we're playing the exact same notes and rhythms, but we're shifting the focus from our fingers. Now we're going to be focusing on our tongue motion and getting really great articulation. So of course, remember, the purpose of articulation exercises to be thinking about the tongue motion, but most importantly, to be thinking about the quality of the sound. So when we articulate, we're going to tongue and touch our tongue to the reed, and that motion's important. And if that motion's wrong, it can throw things off. But most importantly is we want to just think about the sound being consistent and steady, just like we had when we were doing this as a technique exercise. When we're slurring it all the notes come out sounding really great. Now we're just going to add in the tongue motion to create some separation between those notes, shape those notes a little bit, but we don't want the sound quality to be any different. So let me go ahead and demonstrate this. And of course, we also have to come up with what articulation we want to do because there isn't any really marked. The reason why I leave it totally blank is for you to get creative and come up with all kinds of different versions of your own. Always start with slurring to get the notes going well, and then we can add in what we want. So let's start with a super simple one. How about slur 2, tongue 2? And again, just like we do in the actual technique finger flexibility, we're still going to repeat those 2 measures and just repeat it several times so that we get really comfortable with that. So this is slur 2, tongue 2 on just the first 2 measures of that. can see as I'm doing that, I'm getting even more inventive and experimenting and trying some different kinds of articulation. So my first one was like a very generic or like really nice note shape. The next one was very, very legato. It almost maybe sounded like I was slurring the whole thing. And then I also did some staccato as well. So varying that note shape on the articulation can be really beneficial too, just to experiment and explore. And partially this whole this week's exercise, by turning this into an articulation exercise, is a perfect example of how we can always be exploring and adapting our warm-ups. If there's something that you feel maybe you're really good at the fingerings and you want to challenge yourself further, then turn it into an articulation exercise. Maybe you want to practice these fingerings more and get better at your chromatic scale, but like you just can't stand to do this slurred like another 100 times. Then you can add in some articulation to mix it up and make it more interesting, and spend more time on these notes, but also get your tongue warmed up too. So warm-up exercises are perfect for adapting, mixing things up, trying different things as you're going. And that's what'll make you better, is by adapting these exercises to really hone in and focus on what you need to focus on. And if you notice on the actual page, I try really hard to include all of that in these exercises in the book. And if you go through the actual whole book, it should tackle every single sort of issue or trick that you need to figure out how to do on the instrument. For example, with this one, and this is helpful for you if you want to do this exercise at home, the first measure goes from E up to C, or sorry, the first two measures goes low E up to C and back down, like sort of a 2-measure chunk of the chromatic scale. The next two measures start on C, so it picks up where you left off and goes up to A flat in this case. But then the next two measures, instead of starting on A flat, they actually start on G, so that we get a lot of practice going over the break. And then we have also A, so we get even more practice going over the break. So that's sort of the beauty of this book, is it doesn't just give you the like exercise, how it's sort of standardly done in like your normal beginning method book, like in Essential Elements, where it's sort of tailored to kind of work for everybody. It's very, very clarinet specific, and I try to put in like all the tricks that were challenges for me so that you can really get lots of practice navigating that. And then, of course, you can always go further and explore and experiment more by like changing it up into an articulation exercise or going even higher. This one goes up to high F in the last two measures, but you could do another one that goes up to the super high C if you want to. So that's sort of a little extra bonus lesson. The main thing I wanted to talk about was articulating and doing articulation on the finger flexibility exercises, but also just plant that seed that you can always take any of these warm-up exercises that I go over and any warm-up exercises in any other warm-up book that you do or any of your favorite warm-ups, and always be adapting them, changing them up to get what you need out of it. So I hope that helps. This was just slur to, tongue to, and of course in the spirit of adaptation and experimentation, you can do a whole bunch of other articulations as well. You can flip that around to tongue to, slur to. You could do tongue 1, slur 3. You could do slur 3, slur 3. That one's really challenging because it sort of throws off the orientation for where you are in the measure. There's a whole bunch of options. And of course, also in the book, if you have the actual book and you go to the end of the 3-step warm-up section in the articulation, there's a whole page of different articulation patterns, and you can apply those to this finger flexibility exercise as well. So I hope that's been helpful. I hope you've been enjoying getting a little sneak peek behind the scenes of the Next Generation Clarinet Method. And if you're interested in getting more exercises like this, I really encourage you to go to www.quickstartclarinet.com/nextgenbook, or click the link in the description so that you can check out the book for yourself, check out that page that has all of the information about what's in it. I'm really excited about that page. It was my big project from last week, and I really love for people to check it out and see what they think. And then, of course, finally, if you have any questions about this warm-up exercise and turning these finger flexibility exercises into articulation exercises, or any questions about your articulation in general, feel free to leave a comment on this, and I would be happy to answer that for you. And maybe I'll do a video about it too to help you out as much as I can, because that's what I'm all about, is just helping you to learn to love playing your clarinet and have a lot of fun playing this instrument. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week in the next live weekly warm-up.